With Episode Revenant, Peacekeepers got a massive PvE buff. The build we're looking at today gives you a ton of ad clearing potential with volatile explosions, massive boss DPS, and even a ton of survivability with void overshield and health. Let's get into it. For this build, we're bringing the new and improved Peacekeepers. Man, that feels weird to say. With the new rework, each time you deal damage to an enemy with a submachine gun, we now get a stacking damage bonus for our SMGs. This equates to 5% per stack and caps out at 100% increased damage. Now this buff only lasts 1 second, but will also refresh every time you deal more damage with the SMG, and there's no cooldown. I've seen a lot of people in the community talking about Huckleberry as the main weapon of choice, but I've decided to go another route. See, I knew that I wanted to use Void as my subclass, so I decided to go with Manticore. Manticore works like this. You hit targets when you're on the ground to start working up your anti-grav repulsor. Then dealing damage while airborne will activate anti-grav mode, and while hovering you get a ton of benefits. First, dealing damage starts to work up stacks, which will give you increased damage, capping out at another 100% damage. Second, while airborne, enemies are less accurate at hitting you. While this alone is very strong, the catalyst makes it even more impressive. Now, kills while in hover mode will refill 12 shots to your mag and gives you some void overshield. Remember, void overshield got a rework and it now caps out at 150 HP and it gives you 70% damage resistance. Not to mention that it'll already be harder for enemies to hit you. Refilling the mag on airborne kills is huge for keeping up your Manticore and Peacekeeper buffs. Between these buffs and weapon surge, we'll be dealing 388% more damage. And also keep in mind that the exotic primaries deal even more damage to red bar enemies. They create more heavy and special ammo, and since this is a void weapon, we can activate volatile rounds to create a ton of void explosions. Before we get into the build, I have one question for you. Have you been experiencing lag and dropped frames playing games on your console? Well, I'm super excited to announce I'm partnering with Apex Gaming PCs. My PC lineup has a PC for everyone. With Destiny being a 10-year-old franchise, even the most entry-level PC can handle running it. These PCs are powered by AMD CPUs for multitasking, so you can run Destiny 2 and all of your favorite Destiny apps at the same time. And you can even finance it so that you can afford to buy Destiny's 6 years of content. You can use code LUCKY to save 10% at checkout. With that being said, let's jump right back into the video. Taking a look at the super and the abilities, first up for our super, we are taking Twilight Arsenal. While Twilight Arsenal did recently get a nerf, it still puts out a ton of burst damage and weakening, not to mention that you can use it from range. As for our abilities, for the class ability, I'm taking Rally Barricade for its short cooldown and increase to reload speed and range while we're behind it. And as for the melee, Shield Bash is a ton of fun to use and gives you a way to stun overload champs. Though in harder content, you might want to bring Shield Throw so that you can use it at range. And for our grenade, I'm a big fan of Scatter Grenade since it has a fairly short cooldown and has enough damage to easily kill any minor enemy. And when it comes to the aspects, for the first aspect, we're taking Bastion. Now we can pop our barricade to give us and nearby allies a void overshield. And while standing behind our barricade, we'll continuously generate even more void overshield. And for that second aspect, I'm taking Controlled Demolition. This makes it so that void ability damage and volatile explosions will make enemies volatile. This leads to a ton of chained explosions, easily wiping out hordes of enemies. The other massive part of this aspect is that triggering a volatile explosion will heal you and other allies for 90 HP. This means that you're providing you and your fire team with constant health and overshield. Keep in mind that you need to be within 40 meters of the explosion, but that's a pretty massive range. As for the fragments, the first fragment that we're taking is Echo of Instability. Now grenade kills will give your void weapons volatile rounds for 11 seconds. Remember, these volatile explosions not only deal more damage, but will also heal you and your team. And since we use our grenade to proc these volatile rounds, I'm also bringing Echo of Starvation, so that whenever we pick up an orb or a void breach, we gain Devour. That way, any kill will heal you for 100 health, and it'll give you 7.5 to 20% grenade energy depending on the enemy that was killed. So we then bring Echo of Persistence, so that void buffs will last longer. This is mainly for our Devour, since it'll now max out at 15 seconds, and kills will refresh even more time on your Devour. And finally, I take Echo of Reprisal, so that we gain more super energy by getting kills while we're surrounded. Since we can hover over our targets, we can easily stay surrounded and mass delete enemies with our SMG and volatile explosions, feeding us a ton of super energy in the process. Hey you! Yeah, you! Are you enjoying the video? If so, remember to leave a like on the video and consider hitting that subscribe button. So what does this look like in action? Well, you want to start off by shooting enemies while grounded. That way you can work up your anti-grav meter. Once full, get a grenade kill to proc volatile rounds. Then take flight and start mowing down enemies. In the process, you'll create orbs, which will power up your weapon surge, give you more super energy, and even proc devour to rapidly get back your grenade. I usually like to pop my barricade before going airborne, but that part isn't really necessary. Since we provide both us and our team with overshield from our barricade, we want to make sure to use it often. And we generate a ton of super energy, so make sure to throw those axes often. So let's talk about ways to improve the build. First up for the stats, I like to aim for 100 resilience and 100 discipline. That way we can take less damage and throw more grenades, leading to more volatile rounds. The rest of your stats can be split between strength and intellect, since both will be pretty useful. And for our armor mods, first up for our helmet, I like to take a siphon mod. That way we can create orbs by rapidly killing with our SMG, which is really easy to do. Then I bring ashes to assets so that we can use our grenades to get back even more super energy. And finally, I bring heavy ammo finder so that we can generate even more heavy ammo. And for the gauntlet mods, I'm taking firepower. Now kills with our grenades will create an orb, but this does have a 10-second cooldown. Then I take momentum transfer so that when we deal damage with our grenade, we gain back a bit of melee energy. And I also bring harmonic loader so that we can reload our void weapons faster. Since we only get free reloads while anti-grav is active, this helps you when you're grounded. Plus, I like to bring a void heavy weapon for DPS, so this will also help out there. And for the chest mods, I like to run 3 resistance mods. Mainly, I bring 2 elemental resistance that match the activity that I'm in, and then 1 melee resistance since we want to be closer to enemies because we're using an SMG, and we want to stay surrounded so that we gain back even more super energy. So this will help keep you nice and healthy. And for those leg mods, I'm running 3 void weapon surge. Now when we have armor charge, we gain an extra 22% void weapon damage. This not only helps to shred through enemies in the ad clearing portions, but also allows you to deal even more damage during your DPS phases. And finally for the mark, I take bomber so that I can gain back an extra 12% grenade energy just by using our class ability. Then I also pair that with reaper so that after we use our barricade, any weapon kill will create an orb. And then I pair that with powerful attraction so that we collect any nearby orbs whenever we use our barricade. As for the seasonal artifact mods, we do have a few artifact perks that will help this build out a bit more. We bring conductive cosmic crystal. That way all of our abilities will deal 5% more damage to any enemies affected by a stasis debuff. This can be boosted up to 8% with a tonic, and is honestly pretty strong since most people will be running some sort of stasis build this season. And if not, you can bring a chill clip weapon. Power from Pain and Supernova are both technically helpful since they make it so that rapidly defeating weakened enemies will give you Devour, and when picking up Void Breaches, the next void damage you deal will cause a weakening burst. My main problem is that it's hard to mass weaken enemies, so it can be good, but it's a bit situational. And it's a good idea to bring Fell the Revenant when you're running any activity that has scorn enemies so that you can straight up deal more damage. And you can also feel free to bring your grenade launcher perks like rapid impacts and concussive reload if you plan on bringing a grenade launcher. As for weapons, Manticore is the main option, so I'll just go over the weapons for your kinetic and heavy slots. And for our kinetic slot, since this season we can weaken targets with grenade launchers, I like to bring a stasis grenade launcher with chill clip. Something like the new liturgy is a great option. That way I can also use this on the boss to not only weaken the boss, but also proc conductive cosmic crystal, giving us even more damage for all of our abilities. Alternatively, a sniper for long range is a good idea since an SMG is our main weapon. Something like critical anomaly is perfect since it can roll with chill clip. Or you can bring a backup DPS sniper like Name's Lance or Supremacy. And for that heavy slot, I'm sure a lot of you saw this coming. I'm bringing Edge Transit as my #1 option since it has a ton of burst DPS and can benefit from both our weapon surge and volatile rounds. Alternatively, you could run Falling Guillotine for that close range DPS option, or Hammerhead if you need an option for longer range and ad clearing potential. With the increased weapon damage and easy to proc volatile rounds, this build will have you feeling like an AC-130 flying overhead, raining down hellfire on your enemies. But remember, mastering this build is only the beginning. Experiment with different combinations and tweak your loadout to suit your playstyle. If you found found this video helpful or just enjoyed seeing new perspective, feel free to like the video and comment down below what you might change or how you'd improve the Peacekeeper Titan build. Keep an eye out for future videos as we continue to explore the ever-evolving world of Destiny 2. Until then, may the threads of fate be ever in your favor. This is Lucky Mech signing off. See you on the next adventure, Guardians.